You know, there are so many different reasons why society is just going down the fucking toilet. And one of the most overlooked reasons is the lack of privacy, the lack of confidentiality that people have. It's so hard to find anybody who you can genuinely express yourself with without worrying about what they're going to say behind your back, who they're going to tell your business to, etc. Because we live in a world where it's easy to, press a button and add a friend on this or that, but actually finding people who will listen to you, who will hear what you have to say, regardless of what it is, and not only listen, but not judge you for what you are saying to them. That's extremely hard. That's almost impossible to find these days because it seems like everywhere you look, there is an agenda. Even with therapists, you might go to therapy and you might just want somebody who you can spill your beans to, spill your deepest secrets with. And you can't even do that without worry because, what if you say the wrong thing and you end up, you know, being taken away to the crazy house? These are really uh, genuine problems that people have, especially when they're looking for an outlet to just express themselves. And that's one of the things that I admired um, about the Catholic priesthood. Funny story, years ago, when I was still a Christian, I wanted to be a Jesuit priest. And one of the things I read about priesthood is that there is this sacrament of confession, which is essentially, whatever you say in confession has to be kept private, absolutely private with the priest. They cannot divulge anything that you say to them under any circumstance by divine oath. So, they will often give examples. Well, what if somebody said that they poison all the communion hosts? The priest would still have an obligation not to tell that business, uh, even if it was that kind of a situation. So, of course, over the years, they've had to try and add ramifications to that, of course. But nonetheless, the problem still stands that today there is just such a lack of genuine confidence in human beings. Uh, we are walking around carrying weights that we shouldn't have to carry because we just don't have people who we can turn to and speak to honestly. It seems like everybody has an agenda for learning something about you, whether it's to put it in the local newspaper or to save it for later to use against you somehow. It seems like there is always an agenda, you know. And whatever happened to just having a friend who you can tell your all to, no matter what it was, and just have them listen to you and pat you on the back or maybe give you a little bit of advice. It seems like it's just something out of a movie nowadays because just about everybody has an agenda. Now, I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but on this case, I probably will. That's one of the things that I have to applaud myself for. And maybe I should have gotten into therapy. Some people have told me that I probably should have because I'm good at listening. But that's one thing I love about myself is that I've allowed myself to be that person for other people. And not for any selfish gain, other than the fact that I know that it's so rare. And when anytime somebody can come to me and just pour their heart out to me, I feel honored by that because it takes a lot of trust to do that. It takes a lot of trust, a lot of sincere, confidential trust to go out and speak to somebody who you genuinely feel will keep your business private between you and them, no matter what it is. And nowadays, it's just not like that. It's not easy to find people like that. Even close friends, they might use whatever you give them as a weapon against you. They might use it in an argument. Well, remember that time you told me this, or they'll go and run and tell somebody else. It's just, you always have to be on guard. And that's why I tell people, if you are one of those people who have this need to just have a heart to heart conversation with somebody because you just want to get shit off your chest, my very best advice to you is to learn how to gauge people. Learn your audience, learn the person you are with. If a person who you are trying to speak to has a history of gossiping behind your back or gossiping to you about other people, it's a very good chance they're going to gossip to other people about you too. So it's best not to talk to a person like that about confidential things. You really have to learn who it is you're speaking to. It's so vital, it's so essential. And this is something that I tell people, all the time. If you have something you want to speak to me about, I always give the guarantee that no matter what it is, it will be kept confidential because I'm that type of person. I'm not interested in spilling your beans. I'm not interested in being a snitch. I'm not interested in having your name put out on the local newspaper the next morning you wake up. Because I understand how hard it is to find people like that. And so I do kind of get a bit of joy, maybe in a selfish way. I do kind of get that kind of joy in being that person who can be spoken to with the utmost knowledge that whatever is spoken will be kept private, because it's so rare to find that these days. And I don't think there is any betrayal as bad as being betrayed by someone who you trusted, especially someone who you trusted with your most confidential information. Somebody you told your dearest secrets to, and then they turn around and stab you in the back and tell somebody else about it or use it against you at some other point in time. And that really goes to the reason why honesty is so hard to come by in society these days, because we have cultivated a culture of dishonesty, of having to lie out of necessity. It's not that people want to be liars. The problem is that being honest is such a downfall these days. It's such a risky thing to be honest, and it's easier to lie because we have a culture that values honesty to a point. You have to have this certain kind of honesty that's accepted by everybody else and their norms and society. But the moment you have an honesty that goes above and beyond that, oh well, then you can't talk about that stuff because, well, you might you might get in trouble. And it's so sad, it's sad that you don't have really anybody to turn to these days who you can be your honest self with. You're always wondering, what if I tell this person this and they think I'm some kind of horrible freak, or what if I tell them this and they call the people and have me sent away somewhere, or what if I tell them this and they start being moralistic and preaching at me about how evil I am or how wrong I am. And it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate. We have so few safety nets, even among those who we call our friends. There's just always that constant worry, which is why a lot of people don't have friends, because they don't feel like they can be trusted. The lack of trust is so real. It's such a big problem, and gaining trust is very difficult. I can speak for myself. I try my best to give people the benefit of the doubt, but you get bit so many times and you just don't want to open up. There are just it feels like it's just better to keep shit to yourself, even when you are dying to just get it out. It does take a lot of wisdom in figuring out your way around that problem. But yeah, if you can find somebody like that who you can trust and who values you and values what you have to tell them and will never betray your trust, my best advice is to keep that person very close, because friends like that are really once in a while. They're not very easy to come by. And I have one good friend like that who I know for a fact I can tell him anything and he will listen to me. He will offer advice when he feels that it's needed. He knows how to read me and how to respond to me. And it's so difficult to find people like that. So when you do, be thankful that you found somebody like that because it's not a given. I mean, even in the professional sense, therapists and things like that, they can be bought, they can be persuaded. They, it's just never a clear shot with them. You might get a good therapist, you might not, and you might have confidentiality with them, and you might not. You can't even trust family. You think that you can talk to your family members about certain things. Well, you can't. So it's just a really deep problem that's also leading to the epidemic of lonely, friendless people. Those who, don't wish to be friendless. They just don't have friends under the circumstance, because they can't trust people. And that's the reason why. You can't trust people if you are always thinking that someone is going to use what you say against you. So yeah, learn to gauge people, learn to read your audience. And if you ever find somebody who you can trust, keep them close.